Hey friends, welcome to another Jeff Ward book review. Now, if you've seen any of my other book reviews, you know I don't like to read the plot synopsis to you. I don't want to read the dust jacket and tell you what the book's about. Marketing folks can do that. I will tell you roughly what you can expect, but mostly I want to tell you what the book made me feel, how I reacted, was it an easy read, things like that. How does the story absorb into your brain? And holy shit, this book is amazing. So first of all, I know I just said I was going to tell you what it's about, but here's what it's about. It's about a guy named Peter who lost his wife. His wife seemed to be the center of his sanity, and when he lost her, everything went into disarray. She died from cancer. She's gone. She's out of his life, and he doesn't know how to cope. So Peter has anxiety and depression. He's trying to get back into the swing of things, trying to feel normal again, struggling against the riptide of his own mental illness. And if you had told me that's what this book was about, and I didn't know the author, and you just handed it to me and said, here's the synopsis, I'd say no thanks. I don't need to delve into that, anything like that, because it's not something I normally would seek out. But just like The Butcher Boy, it is a study in a human mental illness that fascinates me beyond mere fiction. And that's because this is more literary than most of the other work that Philip Fracassi writes. In fact, he told me he kind of went out on a limb with this book. It was the biggest risk for him. He didn't feel like it would fit with the normal book collectors, the genre readers, the fiction, thriller, horror, sci-fi aficionados. And that's fine, and I agree with him for the most part, but a book like this does not exist to please any sort of box or category. This is a book I had to tiptoe through. I wanted to read it, but the subject matter was tough at times. The beginning of the book, the main character goes through panic attacks, and if you've never dealt with a panic attack, good for you. Just be happy you never have. But if you have, the way Fracassi captures the mindset, the physical symptoms, the environment someone experiences during one of these panic attacks, it's so real. I had to sip it. I had to go through it very carefully and slowly. And in fact, I had to put it down for a couple days, give it a rest, let it cool off, take it back on when I was maybe in a better state of mind and not so susceptible to sinking to where the main character was in the story. And the rest of the book, because of that passage, had me clenching my teeth. The whole book I read with clenched teeth. I know how delicate that trigger is when those alarms go off and that panic attack crushes. I know how sensitive and easily tripped it can be. So I was feeling for the character, but I was also feeling for myself. But for the character, I knew that any sort of ripple in normal, in the balance, could set him off over the deep end in a moment. And so I didn't know what the book was going to deliver and how it would serve it up. But it kept me hooked. I was hooked. As afraid as I was hooked. This is a beautiful book. It also became something of a therapy session for me. It's very cleansing. You ever have a fever, and in the middle of the fever, you're burning, but when that fever breaks, you feel like you've just gotten doused with cold water, and you know you're over it, and you're through the worst of it, and your body sort of shudders and lets go. You've beaten the infection. That's the other end of this book, was when that fever breaks and you know you're through the worst of it. It is cleansing in a very deeply personal way to me. Now, like I said, if you've experienced panic attacks and anxiety and depression, this book will feel very real and very relatable and very helpful in a lot of ways. If you've never experienced anything like that, well, you'll enjoy this as an outsider looking in, and it's probably as close as I've ever read to what it feels like. So you might enjoy that educational aspect. But no matter what, this is a very intimate look at a human struggling. It's a brilliant book. It's very literary. I would put this up there with Butcher Boy, and in some regards, The Road, even though that's less psychological and more stripped, raw, open, nerve-ending book, The Road. But The Butcher Boy has a lot of dark humor. This doesn't have the dark humor, but some of those same themes are there. The idea of how your brain can be weaponized against you. In the case of The Butcher Boy, Francie's brain is trying to help him through the traumas. In this one, don't let them get you down. I find that interesting because whenever I thought of what was holding me back, I never thought of them. There's no them out there to get me. There's no worse enemy than I've ever experienced than myself. My own doubts, my own fears, my own insecurities. Those are the things. Those are the real enemies that I've come across. Other people, you can best them, you can walk around them. There are ways to get around people, but you can't get around yourself. So don't let them get you down. Is an interesting title for a book about somebody battling himself. One quick revelation I had in this book is that anxiety is like the Hulk, but instead of anger, it's triggered by panic, and instead of smashing the world, it just smashes you. And you're worried about when that Hulk's going to show up and start smashing. Brilliant book, had me on the edge the entire way. It was touch and go a little bit here and there, but I loved every word of it. I give it 5 solid stars, and I don't give 5 stars all that often. I know every reviewer probably has his or her own weight behind those stars, but 5 stars to me means it's a perfect book. It's absolutely perfect and cannot be improved upon. There's no better. So 5 stars for Don't Let Them Get You Down. It's still available from Zagava Press. It's coming out in limited edition from them. They're doing a numbered of 199 copies, and they're doing a lettered of 52 copies. I kept eyeballing that lettered edition because it's still not sold out, but there are only a few copies left. And if I could swing it, I would, because this book is definitely worth it. So get over to Zagava. I don't know how many copies are left. I think there are less than 20 left as of this review. This is a book that is totally worth it. Might not be for everyone. If you're looking for a horror novel or a sci-fi or fantasy or just some fun summer thrilling fiction, it's not here. But if you're looking at something beautiful and dark and deep, I don't think you can get into any icier waters than this book. So check it out. Philip Fracassi's amazing. It's unlike the other works of his I've read, Gothic, Boys in the Valley, Commodore, all very different reads, all a lot of fun. This is definitely, I think, his masterpiece. I don't seek out literature, but when I do, I love it, and that's the irony. So go out and get it. It's a beautiful book, and follow Philip Fracassi. So many awesome things coming from him, and I'm happy to be here for every minute of it. So go out there, read some good books. Now, the drink I think pairs best with Don't Let Them Get You Down. Maybe save it till after the book's over, or maybe in the first part you might need a little sip or two. I think Scotch, a delicious Islay, Islay, Islay. Well, let me just say this. A Scotch, a smoky, peaty Scotch. Unfortunately, I don't have any Scotch here, so we're going to have to go with Jack Daniel's single barrel to pair with this book. Being from Tennessee and all. Born and raised. That's what I'm going to tell people. Oh. Cheers. So go out and get it. Read it, sip it, savor it, and stay frosty. After revisiting that book, I needed to take a breather. I just needed to take it easy. Just sit here with my lazy cat on a chair on a do-nothing day. Let it all go. Empty the brain. Sip the scotch. Yeah.